They wore a full bodysuit to approach the cub. Humans strolled in with a Squeaky toy Part 1, the Starship Bright. Horizon had been traveling through the empty parts of space for almost 2 months. It was a survey ship sent by the Galactic Council to map unknown regions and look for signs of life. The crew was made up of different alien species who worked together under Commander Veltax, a tall insect-like being with shiny wings and large compound eyes. On the 47th day of their mission, something unexpected happened. "Commander," said Hana, the navigation officer. She was a Mirani like Veltax, but younger and smaller. Her voice was full of worry. "I am picking up a distress signal. It is very weak." Veltax walked to her station and looked at the screen. In the darkness of space, there was a field of broken metal and debris. It had once been a ship. Now it was nothing but wreckage floating in the void. "What kind of ship?" Veltax asked. Hannah checked her readings twice before answering. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Vorath transport vessel, Commander. The damage looks recent. Maybe 2 or 3 days old." The bridge went silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing. The Vorath were known across the entire galaxy. They were massive creatures, standing 3 meters tall with 6 powerful limbs and scales harder than most metals. Their claws could cut through ship hulls. Their teeth could crush bones like dry leaves. They were the apex predators of the known universe, and even the most powerful empires treated them with careful respect. "Any survivors?" Veltax asked quietly, scanning now. Hannah worked her controls. The screen flickered and changed, showing heat signatures and life readings. One life sign, very small, located in what appears to be an emergency escape pod. How small? Approximately 1.2 meters in length. Hannah paused. "Commander, I believe it is a cub." Veltax felt his wings twitch with nervous energy. A Vorath cub. This was not good news. Adult Voraths were dangerous enough, but cubs were unpredictable. They had all the strength and speed of their parents, but none of the control. There were documented cases of Vorath cubs killing entire teams of trained handlers. Their instincts were pure predator, hardwired into their brains from birth. "Get Dr. Yuna to the bridge," Veltax ordered. "And someone find our human." Dr. Yuna arrived within minutes. She was the ship's expert on alien biology, a Mirani scientist who had spent her whole life studying different species. She looked at the data and her face became very serious. "The pod's life support is failing," she said. "The cub has maybe 6 hours of oxygen left. After that," she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. "We cannot leave it to die," said a voice from behind them. Everyone turned. Park Doyen stood at the entrance to the bridge, holding a cup of something hot and dark. The human was average in every way that the aliens could see. Medium height, black hair, calm brown eyes. He wore the simple uniform of a cultural liaison, a position the Galactic Council had created specifically for humans who served on mixed-species ships. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 15 years ago. In that short time, they had earned a strange reputation. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest or the smartest. But there was something about them that made other species uncomfortable. Something that was hard to put into words. "No one is suggesting we leave it," Veltax said carefully. "But we must be smart about this. A Vorath cub is extremely dangerous." "It is just a baby," Doyen said. "It is a baby that can tear through metal with its claws." Dahin sipped his drink and said nothing. But he walked closer to the main screen, looking at the readings with interest. Dr. Yuna pulled up more information. The transport was carrying a family unit, 2 adults and 1 juvenile. The adults did not survive the initial damage. Their bodies drifted into space. The cub was protected by the emergency systems. It has been alone in that pod for approximately 52 hours. Alone, Do-hyun repeated softly. 52 hours. That is a long time for a baby. Veltax looked at him with some annoyance. Mr. Park, I understand that humans have a tendency to feel sympathy for other creatures. It is one of your more notable traits. But I must ask you to understand the reality of this situation. Marath cubs have killed soldiers wearing full combat armor. They are born with the instinct to hunt and kill. Whatever we feel for this creature, we must approach it with extreme caution. Of course, Do-hyun said. But he did not look away from the screen. On the display, the probe they had sent was now transmitting images from inside the escape pod. The cub was visible for the first time. It was curled up in the corner of the small space, its dark gray scales catching the dim emergency lighting. 6 golden eyes stared at the camera with an intensity that made several crew members step back from their stations. It was smaller than Do-hyun had expected. About the size of a large dog from Earth, though much more heavily built. Its 6 limbs were tucked close to its body. Its tail was wrapped around itself. Despite its fearsome appearance, there was something about its posture that Do-hyun recognized. Look at how it is sitting, he said. Hana glanced at him. What about it? It keeps looking at that corner. The empty one near the door seal. Do-hyun pointed at the screen. See? Every few seconds, it looks there. Then it looks away. Then it looks back again. Dr. Yuna studied the footage. The mother's body was recovered from near that location before it drifted away. The cub may be. She stopped, unsure how to continue. Waiting for her to come back, Do-hyun finished. It does not understand that she is gone. It just knows that she was there, and now she is not, and it does not know why. The bridge was quiet again. But this time, the silence felt different. Veltax made his decision. We will mount a rescue operation. Full safety protocols. I want everyone in Mark 7 environmental suits. Dr. Yuna, prepare sedation for a Varth juvenile. Security Chief Desung, assemble your best team. We do this carefully, and we do this right. And the human? Someone asked. Veltax looked at Do-hyun, who was still watching the cub on the screen. The human had not moved. His coffee had gone cold in his hands. Mr. Park will observe from a safe distance, Veltax said firmly. This is not a task for someone without proper training or equipment. Do-hyun finally turned away from the screen. He smiled a small smile that Veltax found very hard to read. Of course, Commander, he said. I will just watch. He walked off the bridge, still carrying his cold coffee. Veltax watched him go with a feeling that something important had just happened. But he could not figure out what it was. The preparations for the rescue would take several hours. They had no idea that the human had already made his own plans. They wore a full body suit to approach the cub. Human strolled in with a squeaky toy part tooth. Cargo bay of the bright horizon became a place of serious activity. For 6 straight hours, the crew worked without rest. They were preparing for what Commander Veltax called the most dangerous rescue operation of their careers. Security Chief Desung was a Mirani veteran who had fought in 3 different wars. He had scars across his wings that told stories of battles survived. He was not afraid of much. But as he watched his team suit up, even he felt nervous. The Mark 7 environmental combat suits were the most advanced protection available to non-military vessels. Each suit weighed 300 kilograms and covered the wearer from head to foot in layers of reinforced metal and energy shielding. The suits could survive plasma fire. They could survive exposure to hard vacuum. They could survive impacts that would crush normal bodies into paste. Check your seals, Tasing ordered. Check them again. Then have your partner check them a 3rd time. His team of 6 security officers moved with careful precision. They had all read the reports about Varth cubs. They had all seen the footage from the training accidents and the failed handling attempts. One video showed a cub, no larger than theirs, tearing through a security door in less than 4 seconds. Another showed what happened to a handler who made the mistake of approaching too quickly. They were not taking any chances. In the medical section of the cargo bay, Dr. Yuna was preparing her own equipment. She had loaded enough sedative into her delivery system to put a full-grown Vorahas into unconsciousness for a week. The drugs were contained in special darts that could penetrate even the thick scales of an adult. For a cub, she had prepared a lighter dose, but she had backups ready. Many backups. The delivery range is 15 meters, she explained to her assistant, a young Marani named Jiwan. We do not want to get any closer than that. If the first dart does not work, we fire the second immediately. If that fails, we retreat and seal the area. Jiwan nodded, but his hands were shaking as he helped load the equipment. Across the cargo bay, engineers were setting up containment fields. These were energy barriers that could hold back almost anything. They had been designed for containing dangerous cargo and emergency situations. Today, they would form a series of walls between the rescue team and their exit route. If something went wrong, they could retreat section by section, sealing each area behind them. The final backup was the most extreme. A single button on Commander Veltax's command panel could seal the entire cargo bay and vent it directly into space. Everything inside would be lost, but the ship and the rest of the crew would survive. No one talked about this option, but everyone knew it was there. Through all of this activity, Park Do-hyun watched from the observation deck above the cargo bay. He'd been there for hours, sitting in a chair he had brought from the recreation room. His coffee cup had been refilled 3 times. His expression had not changed. Officer Hannah found him there during her break. She was curious about the human. In her experience, humans were strange creatures. They seemed soft and weak compared to most species. They had no claws, no natural armor, no venom or other defenses. Yet somehow, they had not only survived on their dangerous home planet, but had spread across it and eventually reached the stars. "You are not preparing," she said, standing next to his chair. Do-hyun glanced at her. "No. The commander said you would observe from a safe distance." "Yes. You do not seem worried about the rescue." Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Below them, Tassin was running his team through another practice drill. Their heavy boots crashed against the deck as they moved into formation. "Do you know what a wolf is?" Do-hyun asked suddenly. Hannah thought about it. "I have seen the word in human cultural files. It is a predator from your home planet, yes? A hunting animal. A very dangerous hunting animal," Do-hyun agreed. "Wolves hunt in packs. They can run for hours without stopping. They have teeth that can break bones and jaws strong enough to crush skulls. For most of human history, wolves were one of our greatest threats. They killed our livestock. They killed our children. They waited in the darkness outside our fires and watched us with hungry eyes. This does not sound like a pleasant memory." It was not. But here is the interesting part. Do-hyun leaned forward slightly. Somewhere thousands and thousands of years ago, a human looked at a wolf and decided to make it a friend. Hannah's compound eyes widened. "That seems unwise. Very unwise. But they did it anyway. They fed the wolves. They let the wolves sleep near their fires. They raised wolf pups alongside their own children. And slowly, over many generations, the wolves changed. They became dogs. They became our companions, our protectors, our family members. Today, humans share our homes with millions of them. Why are you telling me this?" Do-hyun pointed at the screen that still showed the Varath cub. It had not moved much since they first saw it. It was still curled in that corner, still looking at the empty space where its mother had been. Because everyone down there is preparing to face a monster, he said. And I am looking at something else entirely. Before Hannah could ask what he meant, Do-hyun stood up. He stretched his arms over his head, working out the stiffness from sitting so long. I need to visit the recreation storage, he said. I left something there that I might need. He walked away, leaving Hannah alone with her confusion. Down in the cargo bay, the preparations were nearly complete. Taesung gathered his team for a final briefing. Their suits hummed with power. Their weapons were charged and ready. Remember your training, Taesung said. We move slowly. We communicate constantly. Nobody does anything without orders. The moment Dr. Yuna fires the sedative, we freeze and wait. If the cub attacks, we defend and retreat. We do not engage unless there is no other choice. What about the human? One officer asked. Is he coming with us? The human will stay on the ship, Taesung said firmly. He has no armor, no training, and no understanding of what we are dealing with. Commander Veltax has made it clear that Mr. Park is to remain at a safe distance at all times. The team nodded in agreement. This made sense to them. Humans were soft creatures. They broke easily. There was no place for someone like that in an operation like this. They did not know that Do-hyun had already found what he was looking for in the recreation storage. They did not know that he was even now walking toward the airlock that connected to the Varth escape pod. They did not know that in his pocket, he carried a small rubber ball that squeaked when you squeezed it. The official rescue team was almost ready to begin their mission. They had spent hours preparing for every possible danger. The human had spent 10 minutes and brought a toy dot in less than an hour. The galaxy's understanding of humans would change forever. They wore full bodysuit to approach the cub. Humans strolled in with a squeaky toy part 3. Airlock opened with a loud hiss of pressurized air. Security Chief Taesung stepped through first, his heavy boots making the damaged floor of the Varth escape pod shake slightly. Behind him, his team moved in perfect formation. Their suits made soft whirring sounds as the mechanical parts helped them move their armored bodies. The inside of the pod was dark. Emergency lights cast everything in a dim red glow. The air smelled strange, a mixture of metal and something else. Something alive. Spread out, Taesung whispered through his helmet communicator. Formation Delta. Dr. Yuna, stay behind the front line until I give the signal. Understood, Dr. Yuna replied. Her voice was steady, but Taesung could hear the tension in it. She was carrying the sedation weapon, a device that looked like a small rifle with a thick barrel. The darts inside were designed to work within seconds. At least, that was the theory. The team moved deeper into the pod. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing damaged walls and broken equipment. The escape pod had kept the cub alive, but it had not been gentle about it. Everything was in chaos. And then they saw it. The Varth cub was in the far corner, exactly where the cameras had shown it. But seeing it through a screen was very different from seeing it in person. The creature was small compared to an adult Varth, yes, but it was still massive compared to them. Its dark gray scales seemed to absorb the light from their helmets. Its 6 golden eyes reflected the beams back at them like mirrors. Steady, Taesung breathed. Nobody move. The cub watched them. It did not make a sound. It did not move. But its claws, each one as long as a combat knife, slowly extended from their sheaths. They made a soft clicking sound against the metal floor. One of the security officers took a small step backward. His boots scraped against debris. The cub's head snapped toward the sound. A low growl began somewhere deep in its chest. It was not loud, but everyone felt it. The vibration went through the floor, through their armor, through their bones. Easy, Taesung said. Dr. Yuna, prepare to fire. Target locked, she replied. Ready on your command, On my mark. 3, 2, wait. The voice came from behind them. It was calm, quiet, almost casual. But in the tense silence of the pod, it sounded as loud as an explosion. Everyone turned. Standing in the airlock was Park Doyen. The human wore no armor. He had no weapons. He was dressed in his regular uniform, looking like he had just come from a relaxing afternoon rather than walking into a deadly situation. Mr. Park. Taesung's voice cracked with shock. What are you doing here? Get back to the ship immediately. Do-yoon did not answer. He did not even look at Taesung. His eyes were fixed on the cub in the corner. He started walking forward. Stop him, Taesung ordered. One of the security officers reached out to grab the human's arm. But Do-yoon simply stepped around him, moving with a smoothness that made the armored officer look slow and clumsy. Human, you will be killed, Dr. Yuna said desperately. The cub will attack you. Do-yoon kept walking. He passed through the formation of armed guards like they were not even there. He stepped over the equipment they had brought. He walked directly toward the creature that could kill him in a heartbeat. The cub's growl grew louder. Its muscles tensed. Its claws dug into the floor, leaving bright scratches in the metal. Do-yoon stopped about 5 meters away from it. He stood there, completely still, looking at the cub with an expression of gentle patience. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small rubber ball. He squeezed it. Squeak. The sound was ridiculous in the tense silence. It was a silly, childish noise, completely out of place in a situation where everyone expected violence and death. The cub froze. Squeak. Squeak. Do-yoon squeezed the ball again. Then again. He turned it in his hands, making sure the cub could see it clearly. Hey there, he said softly. His voice was warm and gentle, the kind of voice you might use with a scared child. You have been having a really bad time, have you not? All alone in here. Nobody to play with? Squeak. The cub's growl faded to silence. Its 6 golden eyes were now completely focused on the ball. One of its ears, a leathery fold of skin on the side of its head, twitched slightly. Do you want to see something cool? Do-yoon asked. He crouched down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. Then he rolled the ball gently across the floor toward the cub. For a moment, nothing happened. The ball rolled to a stop about a meter away from the massive creature. Everyone held their breath. Then the cub moved. Taesung's team nearly opened fire. Dr. Yuna's finger tightened on the trigger of her sedation weapon. But they did not shoot, because what they saw made no sense to them. The cub pounced on the ball like it was the most exciting thing in the universe. It batted the toy with one huge paw, sending it bouncing off the wall. It chased after it, its heavy body moving with surprising grace. It caught the ball in its claws, examined it closely with all 6 eyes, and then did something that nobody expected. It carried the ball back to Do-yoon and dropped it at his feet. Then it sat down and looked at him. Its tail, that thick armored weapon that could break bones with a single swing, began to move slowly back and forth across the floor. Back and forth. Back and forth. It was wagging. Good girl, Do-yoon said softly. He picked up the ball. It was slightly dented now, marked with scratches from the cub's claws. But it still worked. Squeak. The cub's whole body wiggled with excitement. Do-yoon threw the ball again. The cub bounded after it, crashed into a wall with enough force to dent the metal, and came running back with the toy held carefully in its jaws. Behind him, Taesung and his team stood in complete shock. Their weapons hung uselessly at their sides. Their expensive armor felt suddenly pointless. Dr. Yuna lowered her sedation device. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. That is not possible, she whispered. Lorith cubs do not play. They do not bond with other species. They especially do not bond with prey species like humans. She is just a baby, Dalian said, not looking away from the cub. He was scratching her behind one ear now, his small human hands moving carefully between her scales. She was scared and alone, and she did not understand what happened to her family. She just needed someone to be kind to her. The cub made a sound. It was deep and rumbling, but somehow soft. Almost like a very large cat purring. Taesung slowly removed his helmet. His face was covered in sweat. How did you know that would work? Do-hyun finally turned to look at them. His smile was small but genuine. I did not know, he admitted. But where I come from, we have a saying. Every animal is just a friend you have not made yet. Sometimes you just have to try. He turned back to the cub. She had brought him the ball again and was waiting with obvious hope in her golden eyes. Squeak. Come on, girl, Do-hyun said, standing up. Let us get you somewhere safer than this broken pod. I bet you are hungry too. The cub followed him as he walked toward the airlock. She stayed close to his side, her massive head almost at the level of his shoulder. When one of the armored security officers moved too quickly, she growled softly. But a gentle word from Do-hyun calmed her immediately. The most heavily armed and protected rescue team in the ship's history. Watched in amazement as a single human with a rubber toy accomplished what they never could have done. They had prepared for war. Do-hyun had simply made a friend. They wore full bodysuit to approach the cub. Humans strolled in with a Squeaky toy part 4. 3 days passed on the bright horizon, and nothing was ever the same. The Varth cub, which Do-hyun had named Bomi, became the most unusual passenger in the ship's history. She followed the human everywhere. When he walked through the corridors, she walked beside him. When he sat in the observation lounge, she sat next to him. When he slept, she curled up outside his quarters, her massive body blocking the entire hallway. At first, the crew was terrified. They pressed themselves against walls when Bomi passed. They whispered behind closed doors about the dangerous creature loose on their ship. Some requested transfers to other vessels. Others refused to leave their quarters at all. But slowly, day by day, things began to change. It started with the meals. Do-hyun brought Bomi to the ship's food hall on the second day. The creature was hungry, and he wanted to find something she could eat. The room went completely silent when they entered. Crew members frozen mid-bite, their eyes wide with fear. Do-hyun ignored them. He walked to the food stations and started looking through the options. Let us see what we have here. Nutrient paste. More nutrient paste. Something that might be vegetables. Ah, here we go. Protein blocks. He grabbed a handful of the dense food bars and held one out to Bomi. The cub sniffed it carefully, then took it from his hand with surprising gentleness. Her teeth, each one as long as a finger, could have taken his arm off. Instead, they closed around the protein block without even touching his skin. Bomi chewed. She considered. Then her tail started wagging. She likes it, Do-hyun announced to the silent room. Good news, everyone. Our guest approves of the menu. He sat down at an empty table, and Bomi settled beside him, her head resting on the floor near his feet. Do-hyun ate his own meal calmly, while the cub crunched through protein block after protein block. Nobody moved for several minutes. Then, slowly, one crew member returned to eating. Then another. Then another. By the end of the meal, conversations had started again. Quiet ones, with many nervous glances toward the massive predator on the floor. But conversations nonetheless. By the third day, some crew members had started calling Bomi by name. Dr. Yuna became obsessed with studying the situation. She followed Do-hyun and Bomi everywhere, taking readings and making notes. Her confusion grew with every passing hour. This should not be happening, she said during one of her many examinations. Bomi was lying on her side while Do-yoon scratched her belly. The cub's eyes were half closed with pleasure. Varath are not social creatures outside of family units. They do not form bonds with other species. They certainly do not allow other creatures to touch their vulnerable areas like this. She is a baby, Do-yoon said simply. Babies need affection. But the instincts, the genetic programming. Do you want to try? Do-yoon asked. Doctor. Yuna hesitated. She looked at the massive creature before her. Bomi's claws were retracted, her breathing slow and peaceful. She looked almost cute. If you ignored the fact that she weighed several hundred kilograms and had the power to destroy a small vehicle, slowly, very slowly, Dr. Yuna reached out her hand. She touched the scales on Bomi's side. They were warm and surprisingly smooth. Bomi opened one golden eye. She looked at the doctor. Then she closed her eye again and made that deep purring sound. Unbelievable, Dr. Yuna breathed. Not really, Do-yoon said. You are kind and gentle. She responded to that. It is not complicated. In the observation lounge, Navigator Hana was telling the story of what she had learned about wolves for the third time. A small crowd of crew members had gathered to listen. The humans took actual predators and turned them into companions, she explained. Not through force or control, but through patience and kindness. They did it with wolves, with large cats, with creatures that had every reason to kill them. But why? Asked one young crew member. Why take such risks? Hannah thought about the question. I asked Mr. Park about that. He said something I did not understand at first. He said that humans see themselves in other creatures. They look at an animal, even a dangerous one, and they think about what that animal might be feeling, what it might need, what it might become if someone gave it a chance. That sounds insane. Yes, Hana agreed. But look at the results. Through the observation window, they could see the cargo bay below. Do-yoon had set up a play area there, with obstacles and toys that he had made from spare parts. Bomi was chasing a ball across the open space, her powerful legs launching her through the air with each jump. Every time she caught the ball, she brought it back to Do-yoon. Every time, her tail wagged like she had just won the greatest prize in the universe. The human threw the ball again, and again, and again. He never seemed to get tired of it. He never seemed to get bored. The Varath Council responded to our message. Commander Veltax announced, walking into the lounge. They are sending a ship to collect the cub. The mood in the room changed immediately. Hannah felt her heart sink, though she did not fully understand why. When will they arrive? Someone asked. 4 days. 4 days. Hannah looked back down at the cargo bay. Bomi had caught the ball again and was running back to Do-yoon. The human caught her in a hug, wrapping his arms around her massive head. The cub's whole body wiggled with happiness. Does Mr. Park know? Hannah asked. Not yet. Veltax's wings drooped slightly. I will tell him tonight. But I wanted to give them one more day. Just one more day before. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. That night, Hana went to find Do-hyun. He was in the observation lounge again, sitting in his favorite chair. Bomi was asleep at his feet, her massive body rising and falling with each slow breath. The squeaky ball was clutched in one of her paws, even in sleep. You heard the news, Do-yoon said without turning around. Yes. Hannah sat down in the chair beside him. How are you feeling? I knew this was temporary, he said. She has a family, a clan, a people who will take care of her. That is what matters. But Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. But I will miss her. Is that strange? To miss a creature I have only known for 3 days. Hannah looked at the sleeping cub, at the human who had walked into danger with nothing but kindness and a toy, at the bond between them that science said should not exist. No, she said. I do not think that is strange at all. They sat together in silence, watching the stars drift past the observation window. Below them, Bomi dreamed whatever dreams a Vorath cub might dream. Her paw twitched. Her tail moved slightly, and somewhere in the vastness of space, a Vorath warship was already on its way. They wore full bodysuit to approach the cub. Humans strolled in with a Squeaky toy part 5. The Vorath warship appeared on their sensors exactly 4 days later. It was called the Iron Will, and it was the largest vessel any of the Bright Horizon crew had ever seen. It stretched across the view screen like a metal mountain, covered in weapons and armor that made their own ship look like a toy. "They are requesting permission to send a shuttle," Officer Hana reported. Her voice was quiet. Commander Veltax nodded slowly. "Permission granted. Direct them to Docking Bay 3. The entire crew had gathered in the corridors leading to the docking bay. Nobody had ordered them to come. They simply wanted to be there. Word had spread about what had happened over the past week. Everyone had a story about seeing Do-Yun and Bomi together. Everyone had watched the bond grow between the human and the cub. Everyone understood what was about to happen. Do-Yun stood at the entrance to the docking bay with Bomi beside him. The cub had sensed that something was different today. She stayed closer to him than usual, her golden eyes watching everything with careful attention. The squeaky ball was held in her mouth. She had not let go of it since morning. The shuttle landed with a heavy thump. The doors opened with a hiss of pressure release. The Vorath who emerged were terrifying. They stood 3 meters tall, their dark scales seeming to drink in the light. Their golden eyes were sharp and intelligent. Their claws clicked against the deck with each step. The leader wore ceremonial armor covered in symbols and markings that told stories of battles and victories. "I am Ambassador Kong-Ho of Clan Vorath," the leader announced. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "We have come for the child." Commander Veltax stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Bright Horizon, Ambassador. The cub is healthy and well cared for. We are glad we could help." Kyung-Ho's eyes moved past the commander. They found Do-Yun and Bomi standing together. The ambassador's expression changed. Surprise, confusion, something that might have been wonder. "Explain this," he said. Veltax looked uncomfortable. "The human, our cultural liaison. He formed a bond with the cub during her time with us. A bond." Kyung-Ho walked forward slowly. His guards followed, their weapons not raised but clearly ready. The crew members pressed themselves against the walls, giving the massive aliens as much space as possible. Kyung-Ho stopped in front of Do-Yun. The human had to tilt his head back to look at the ambassador's face. The size difference was almost comical. Do-Yun looked like a child standing before a giant, but he did not look afraid. "You touched a Vorath child," Kyung-Ho said. It was not a question. "Yes." "You played with her, fed her, slept near her." "Yes." "Why?" Do-Yun looked at Bomi. The cub had pressed herself against his leg. She was watching the adult Voraths with obvious nervousness. Her grip on the squeaky ball had tightened. "Because she was alone," Do-Yun said simply. "Because she was scared. Because she needed someone to care about her, and I was there. You could have been killed. Yes, that did not concern you?" Do-Yun was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but steady. "Where I come from, we have a word for creatures who share our lives. We call them companions, friends, family. We do not choose them based on whether they are safe or easy to understand. We choose them because something in us recognizes something in them. Because we look at another living being and we think, yes, I want to know you. I want to protect you. I want to be part of your story." He looked up at the massive ambassador. I looked at Bomi and I saw a child who had lost everything. And something in me decided that she was worth whatever risk it took to help her. That is what humans do. It is who we are. Kyung-ho stared at him for a long time. The docking bay was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody seemed to breathe. Then, slowly, the ambassador did something that nobody expected. He lowered himself to one knee, bringing his eyes closer to Do-yoon's level. It was a gesture of respect that no Varth had ever shown to another species in recorded history. "You saved the last daughter of House Vorshin," Kyung-ho said. "Her parents died protecting our trade routes from raiders. We believed her lost forever." The council had already begun mourning the end of a bloodline that stretched back 10,000 years. "I did not know any of that," Do-hyun said. "I just knew she needed help. That makes what you did more remarkable, not less." Kyung-ho rose to his full height again. "The child must return with us. She has duties, responsibilities, a heritage to carry forward. But she has made her feelings very clear." He gestured at Bomi. The cub had not moved from Do-hyun's side. When one of the Varth guards took a step toward her, she growled softly and pressed closer to the human. "It seems she has chosen her guardian," Kyung-ho continued. "This is unprecedented, but Varth do not ignore such bonds. They are sacred to us, no matter how unusual they may be." "What does that mean?" Commander Veltax asked. Kyung-ho looked at Do-hyun. "It means we are extending an invitation. If you are willing, human, you would come with her to our homeworld. You would be granted citizenship in our territories. You would be named official guardian of House Vorshin." Do-hyun blinked. "You want me to move to the Varth homeworld? The child needs you. That is not something we take lightly." Kyung-ho paused. "It would not be easy. Our world is harsh by human standards. Many would not understand at first. But you have already proven that you are capable of earning the trust of a Varth. Perhaps you could earn the trust of many more." Do-hyun looked down at Bomi. The cub looked back at him with all 6 of her golden eyes. She squeezed the ball in her mouth. Squeak. Her tail wagged. "I will need to pack," Do-hyun said. 3 hours later, he stood at the airlock that connected to the Var shuttle. His few personal belongings were in a small bag over his shoulder. The crew of the Bright Horizon had gathered to say goodbye. Navigator Hana stepped forward first. "Thank you," she said, "for showing us something we did not understand before." "What was that?" "That kindness is its own kind of strength." She touched his hand briefly. "The galaxy will learn about what you did here. The story is already spreading. I think it will change things." Dr. Yuno was next. "I am going to write about you," she said. "About what you did and what it means. Scientists across 100 worlds will study your story for generations." Do-hyun smiled. "Just make sure you mention Bomi. She is the real hero." Commander Veltax approached last. "I did not believe you when you walked into that pod," he admitted. "I thought you were being foolish. I thought you would get yourself killed." "I almost thought the same thing," Do-hyun admitted. "But you did it anyway, because you believed it was right." Veltax extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. "Safe travels, Mr. Park. May the stars guide your path." Do-hyun shook his hand. Then he turned and walked through the airlock. Bomi followed close behind, her squeaky balls still clutched in her jaws. The shuttle doors closed. The engines fired. Through the observation windows, the crew watched as the small vessel flew toward the massive Varth warship. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Officer Hannah broke the silence. "Do you think he will be okay?" Commander Veltax watched the shuttle disappear into the warship's docking bay. He thought about the human who had walked into danger with nothing but hope. About the bond that science said should not exist. About the universe and all its impossible wonders. "I think," he said slowly, "that Park Do-hyun will be just fine. And I think the Varth have no idea what they are getting into." Far away, on a shuttle heading toward a new life, Do-hyun sat with Bomi's head on his lap. He scratched behind her ears while she made that deep purring sound. The squeaky ball sat between them, battered and worn, but still functional. "It is going to be an adventure," he told her. "Are you ready?" Bomy's tail wagged. Squeak. They both were. The end.